Hello, everyone. It's another episode of Tailgate Talk. We're your hosts, David, Nick, and back from his hiatus last week, Joseph. Boys, side of the people.
Howdy.
Going on?
Well, we made it. It's conference championship week. Instead of 10 games this year, we got nine, but it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot to get into. We got a lot of picks to make, and we're upgrading from our usual format to we're going to pick every single conference championship game this week, and talk about the implications when it comes to the playoffs. So, boys, do you want to just hop right into it?
I'm down.
Let's do it. Just one thing, spreads don't matter. It's just pick them.
Perfect. Even better. Some of these spreads were difficult.
Before we start,
When you just go off gut like I do, you're in a good job.
right, final regular season standings, David did win. But are we adding on to the record for
Yeah,
bowl
adding
season
on.
or David, you officially won the regular season, so good job. And with that, that's about all I want to say about the regular season. Conference USA, um, should be a good game. I got Jacksonville State. I hate picking a Gamecock team, but I'm just going with them. Give me Jacksonville State.
Yeah. I did the same. I think Rich Rod is a coach down there. I like what he does. I think that he's gonna have a good end to the season. And Western Kentucky has burned me. I think every single time I've picked them, so I'm refusing to pick them out of spite.
Burn you again, Joe. Give me the Hilltoppers. Let's go. Big Red. Best uniforms in all of college football. I'm going off vibes.
Can't do it this week.
Speaking of vibes, Ashton Genty probably should be the Heisman. I don't think he's winning it. I think it's Travis Hunter's award to lose. Going up against UNLV. Credit to UNLV for getting here. Losing their quarterback midseason to the portal is tough, but I think their luck runs out. Give me the Broncos. I just think they're too high powered. It's their season to get in the playoffs, so give me Ashton Genty and the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're the best group of five team in the country, and I don't think that's groundbreaking news or anything, but Ashton Genty, even in a full body cast that he's probably going to be in up until the playoffs, I think he still has a game, and I think that Boise State wins this game by a decent margin.
Games on the Smurf turf. Let's go. Give me Boise State.
That means pick UNLV because we all picked Boise State.
Tulane Army. This one I feel icky doing it, but give me Tulane. I just think that Army's beaten up. They're it's been a great season, but I just think Tulane's too good to not pick them. So give me Tulane here.
Yeah, I'm going with Army. I'm going with the Service Academy here. I think Army finishes strong. I love Bryson Daly. I love that triple option. I love their scheme. I love their head coach. I like everything about West Point football. So I'm going off vibes here, just like he was with the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, give me Army on this as well. Um, I'm really interested to see we've got a special week next week with the Army Navy game, but Army's got some business to take care of this week, so give me Army.
Going to the Big 12, first power conference championship of the weekend. Arizona State's just too hot. You know, they've Kenny Dillingham. I love what he's doing down there. Give me Arizona State. I think that it's their game to lose.
Yeah, last year Arizona was my team. I said it a bunch of times this year. This year Arizona State was my team. They haven't let me down, so hopefully they continue that here. Give me the Sun Devils. I love their offense. Sam Levitt's the man. Cam Scatterbo, that guy is unbelievable. And in a year where Ashton Chenty doesn't exist, he's probably going to New York in a Heisman. He's probably not winning it, but he's probably going. Um, Give me Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils here.
Yeah. Nick, you nailed it on the head. Arizona State just way too hot right now. Iowa State limping in. It's gonna be Arizona State.
He might be the best coach in the country heading into one of the better coaches in the country coming into next year.
I really do like what he's done at that program. I think he's been such a great hire, and he's young, so he's going to be
He's
around
only
for a long time.
he's only 36, and they were saying that this is his dream job. Like even when he was at other places like big time schools as like coordinators or whatever, or just on the staff, this is where he wanted to end up. So he's not going anywhere as long as they treat him right.
This is supposed to be a rebuilding year, with all the turnover that's been going on in Arizona State. So to be in this spot here, he's done a hell of a job.
Moving on to the Maction, Joe's favorite conference. I'm going with the Red Hawks of Miami, Ohio. I don't really know too much about it, but so I'm just rolling with Miami of Ohio. So that's really all I got.
All right, I'm going off vibes here. I'm going with the Bobcats, the Ohio Bobcats. I like Raheem Hunt to as an anytime touchdown scorer here. Give me the Bobcats. I have a good feeling about this one.
Yeah, Joe, vibes are great on Ohio. Just the team, not the state.
I was
Yeah,
about to
and
say,
Ricky Hunt, anytime touchdown scorer. Book it.
interesting. The big one, Georgia, Texas. Um, Game being in Atlanta is tough for Texas just because that's literally a home game for Georgia. But I think they get the revenge factor here, and I just think that Georgia is not as good as everyone thinks they are. I'm saying that knowing that Clemson lost by 31 against them week one, but give me Texas, hook 'em. My national champion pick still is alive, so let's hook 'em horns.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Texas, kind of off the same point that you were making. I just don't think Georgia's that good, and it's not because they haven't shown that they can be good. It's just because they're not consistent enough. We've seen some games where they haven't gotten off the bus, and we've seen others where they've completely and utterly dominated. I think Texas gets them back here. I think the Longhorns are hot, and I think that this is their time to make a statement and show that they're the big dogs. No pun intended in the SEC. So give me the Longhorns here. Give me Quinn Ewers. I think that they're a great team.
This game's in Atlanta. Georgia's coming off of honestly, a horrible showing against Georgia Tech. Going to eight overtimes against uh, that team is not where Georgia wants to be. I think they come out motivated. I think that they're going to feel that home field factor, and they're gonna get Texas.
Interesting pick. I
But
don't hate it.
Georgia, real quick before we move on, Georgia hasn't had a full game of complete and utter dominance. They've had halves, they've had three quarters of games. They have never, I feel like every time I've watched them this season, I haven't watched every single game, every single minute, but the vibes that I get every time I turn on the TV and watch the Georgia Bulldogs is they haven't had a full game of complete and utter dominance. And I think that Texas takes advantage of that.
They're due for four quarters of utter dominance, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see if they can put it all together this week.
This is must see TV. I think this game is going to be entertaining. I do not see it being a blowout either way. I think that this is going to go back and forth.
Yeah, so do I.
Go to the Sun Belt, the mighty Sun Belt. I picked Marshall earlier this year, and they didn't fail me. So I'm picking against them and hope that they don't fail me as again. Give me Louisiana.
Yeah, I'm going off of the game where they played Ohio State. They looked really good for about a half. And so for that, I'm taking the Thundering Herd here. It is 3 weeks after their anniversary, so hopefully they're still riding high off that. And the vibes are high in Marshall. Give me the Thundering Herd.
Anytime you get to pick the Raging Cajuns, you should do it. I mean, look at they got the fleur de lis. They've got a jalapeno pepper in their logo. The vibes are immaculate for this team.
You'll see. Thundering Herd, book it.
Another big one, Penn State, Oregon. Both teams already in. I don't have to say anything more than James Franklin in a big game. Joe, you're up.
Yeah, go Ducks here. I think they might be the best team in the country. And that's not to say that they're not flawed, but I think they're the most complete team in the country.
Yeah, James Franklin, big game. This is Oregon all over it.
and the one with the most emotional attachment on this podcast. I don't feel great about it, but I'm not picking against my boys. Give me the Tigers. Get into the playoffs and make everybody mad.
So I apologize in advance, which I think that tells you my pick. I'm going with SMU here. I think they finish off strong, and I think they make it hard for the playoff committee to keep them out. I know they're in right now, but I think with a loss, they're out, and so I think they're going to make it tough for the committee to choose between those three at large teams or the teams that could be considered at large. So give me SMU here.
I'm not picking against my boys. I'm rooting hard for Clemson that Saturday night. Tell you what, this game I think is going to be good. I don't know if Clemson's defense is going to be able to stop SMU's offense. The question is, can Clemson's offense keep up? Um, if this game is close and Clemson wins, I think SMU should still be in. That's my opinion, and it'd be really funny to knock Bama out that way. So
So
I'm
do
rooting for a
I.
little bit of chaos here.
So do I, but do you think that they still get in? Like, I know we all want them to, right? Even if they lose, but do you think that the committee says, even with the loss, that they get in? That's my
Well,
fear.
this is where we're going to start getting into the whole ramifications thing because what you're telling me, if they lose and they don't get in, is that they should never play the conference championship game because they're in right now. Because you've got teams like Ohio State, teams like Indiana, teams like Tennessee that are securely in right now, not playing in a conference championship game, and SMU goes in and they're going to go from buy to out. I think that is a very hard pill to swallow. It is reminiscent of Florida State getting the raw end of the deal last year, and I would be very disheartened to see the committee make that decision. I would love Clemson to put them in that position to have to make that decision because that means that Clemson's in. But I think that this is a very important way to handle the the playoff selection because at that point, you're basically saying it does not matter what you do. SEC and Big Ten are going to get preferential treatment the whole way, and you might as well just go to Power Two conference and have them do their own thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the committee, and I hope it's not this way, but I feel like the committee's always shown consistency, whether it be for right or for wrong. And last year, with them kind of giving Florida the crappy end of the stick, I don't know. I have lack of faith in the committee, even though it's an entirely new committee from what I've listened to on the few shows that I've watched, or at least as a new chairman of this committee or whatever. But I feel like the committee is always going to make committee type decisions, and that's the wrong one. So I agree with you. I think it would be a bad precedent to set, but I have lack of faith that if they lose this game, they get in
Honestly,
because they're gonna
I'm
they're
just
they're gonna they're gonna put Bama in. Bama's the baby of the SEC. Even in a down year with three losses that they really haven't shown anything, Bama's gonna get in.
Another thing, you look at SMU at that point, they would have lost to a Clemson team that would be in the playoff and a BYU team that's ranked. And you've got um, Alabama looking suspect in games, losing inexcusably, getting throttled by an Oklahoma team that has not been good for 90% of their season.
Yet they were favored by
Um,
like 30 against two, and that's not even
and they lost by like
hyperbolic.
30. Like, it, I feel like the SEC conference has been propped up by brand bias this entire year, and I think overall as a whole, the SEC is having a down year. You look at how tight their conference championship race was with each team. I think having is it does Tech? I think Texas has what, one loss, Nick, or two?
Texas has one. They
To
lost to
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Every other team has at least two losses. Like it it's there's a log jam there at three losses, and you look at the teams that SMU has played, and they are most of them bowl eligible, I believe. I mean, you've
I
got
I also,
Uh,
not to get off track, but while you're looking up what you're looking up, I also kind of am hoping that Penn State loses because um, that means Notre Dame would probably move up to the 5 seed. Where if Penn State wins, I think Oregon would drop to the 5 seed, and then Notre Dame would get a home game still, probably. But I would like to see Notre Dame in that 5 seed because I think that
Notre
that's
Dame's either going to be the 5 or the 6. It's just
correct.
going to depend on Penn State and Oregon because I think the other question is, do you drop Oregon below Notre Dame if they lose? I
No,
don't think you do. I think I mean, they beat Ohio State. Um,
you
I
shouldn't,
think,
and that's coming from a Notre Dame fan.
right. So I mean, the other interesting thing is if Georgia beats Texas, how far would you slide Texas?
Mm. They would fall to like a Tennessee range for me, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a committee member, but that's
I
where I would put them near that.
I think if Oregon and potentially Georgia win, I would put those two as the top two, and then Penn State losing, I would slide Notre Dame up to 3, Texas at 4, Penn State at 5, just in the rankings, not the seating. So,
Yeah. But Texas also hasn't played anybody either.
I mean, yeah, and that's a very fair point. But I just think that you can't drop
Their
Texas
best
below
win,
Penn State for
their
losing to
be-
Georgia.
their best win is a subpar Texas A&M team that in the beginning looked like it could be something, but then at the end of the year seemed like it was fool's gold. And that's coming also from a Notre Dame fan whose best win is probably Texas A&M.
If you're Texas, you're just so mad at Michigan for losing how many games they lost because that was a top 10 road win at the time.
That was their best win.
And now it doesn't now like you said, now their
and
best
that's
win
the
is probably
thing.
A&M.
You look at that and you're like, look, that should have been their best win, and it was not. Clemson goes in expecting Florida State to be their potential best win, and it turns out not to be. Like that's the I feel like so much of these conversations get into cyclical about just what the brand should have been, and it feels like your SEC teams have a little bit more stickiness to. It doesn't matter how many losses they have. You basically have to lose double the times in order for it to count as a single loss. Whereas, Michigan's not good this year. They are not good this year. Ole Miss was how many times have we called them fraudulent? They're sitting there with 3 losses. Bama has not looked good this year. In my opinion, I do not think that Bama has looked consistently good the way that they need to be in the playoff.
They've looked
So
very
the whole
inconsistent.
reason that they're in there is because it's Bama. But
Correct.
it's not Nick Saban Bama. It's Kellen DeBoer Bama. It is a new team that has shown it has not been consistent, and they're sitting at home on conference championship Saturday because of that.
I think that Miami shouldn't have been dropped below Bama for losing to a Syracuse team. I think people just look
That
at the
was
name
that
Syracuse
that was. I mean, you're looking at it. Syracuse is now ranked 22nd, so they lost to a ranked team on the road
by 4 points or
by
however
four
many points it
points.
was. I
Yeah,
think
but
So
that
to be fair, Miami and again, I'm not saying one way or the other, but I'm just gonna leave this breadcrumb here, right? Miami hasn't played anybody either.
yeah,
I
I
mean I
mean,
think
they
Miami and
played Florida.
honestly,
They
when
beat Florida.
and Florida
A
Florida
Florida team that finally found their footing the last 4 games of the
Yeah,
season.
but the thing is that the Florida team that gets kudos for being in the SEC, and so when an SEC team beats Florida, it's a good win. But when Miami does, it's not. And that's my
I
whole
don't think
point.
it
Is that
is.
I
I
am
would argue across the board that it's not really that great of a win. It's not as bad as a loss because they salvaged their season a little bit, but that's not a good win. And especially if DJ Lagway wasn't playing. I don't
what
remember
about
if DJ Lagway played that whole game, but there were a lot of games where he, number one, either split the reps or he didn't play because he was hurt or whatever else Billy Napier was doing over there in Gainesville, right? So it's like that has to go into consideration.
what about beating Louisville on the road?
Louisville is a 500 team at best. They're an average team. I don't think they're below average. I don't think they're above average.
500 team at best. They went 8-4.
Okay, but I mean, like,
they beat Clemson in Clemson.
not talking about record, but like They were up and down a lot
I'm
this year.
talking about record. You just brought up stuff.
I'm saying like 500 in the terms of like I test, right?
So what
Like,
you're saying is they're streaky, which is what the SEC has been this whole year.
Louisville.
yeah.
Here's
So why is it
Louisville's.
okay for the SEC to be streaky and
Oh,
to get that
I'm
pride,
not saying it is.
but another conference isn't?
I'm not
Wait,
saying
hold
it
on,
is.
hold on, hold on, Joe,
I'm
hold
in
on,
agreement with you.
Joe, hold on. Here are Louisville's losses, by the way. They lost at Notre Dame by a touchdown. They lost to SMU by a touchdown. They lost to Miami by a touchdown, and then they lost to Stanford by a field goal. And what was the worst loss I've ever seen in my life. That was after beating Clemson. Like realistically, they've lost 4 games by 24 points. That's an average of 6 points a loss. Like that. That's a good football team. I'm sorry. Like they had one bad loss, and then the rest of the losses, like theoretically, those are really good teams.
I don't know. I watched that Louisville team against Notre Dame this year, and yeah, they only wound up losing by 6, but they got their rear end handed to them for 3.5 quarters of that game.
Do we want to open up a
But
can of
Notre
worms
Dame's
for
a good
you, Joe?
team.
I want to open up a can of worms for Joe here now because y'all lost to Northern Illinois.
At home.
Yeah, let's look at who you have beaten. Your
That's what I'm
best
saying.
win
Like,
is Louisville. Your
you're
best win's
right.
Louisville.
You're right. Your
So don't
best, no, their
discredit your
best
best
win is
win.
Texas A&M.
All right, your best win's Texas A&M, but the next best win is Louisville
And
because
that's not really a
USC's been
good
fraudulent
win.
this year.
Army
Yes,
and
that's what I'm
Navy are,
saying.
as much as I hate to say it, as much as I wanted Army and Navy to be really good, they were overrated. And
Well, one of them was. One of them was a
Navy,
little bit overrated.
Navy,
Navy was supremely overrated. Army
yeah,
actually had they deserve to be ranked, but they're a 18 through 25 ranked team in the country,
yeah.
which is
I'd like to
not bad.
understand why y'all only won by 2 touchdowns against the USC team that's been pedestrian at best.
Again, but they were up
There's
by
a
3,
lot,
so a throwaway touchdown at the end. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
sir. Sir. It was you both scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. You
I'm not arguing.
other than your you were tied at half. You had a big third quarter, and that was it.
Yeah, an unbelievable third quarter with 2 interceptions. But I'm not saying I'm in agreement with you. I'm saying I'm arguing the same thing that a lot of these teams are playing like 500 ball on the eye test that are going to get in, and they don't have good wins enough to move them up into the spot where everyone wants them to be. Especially talking
Well,
about the
so by
SEC.
that argument, I would say that means that SMU, if they lose to Clemson, should stay right above Indiana. Yeah, Boise State, I'm assuming win. They move up to 8. You slide down SMU to 9. Indiana goes to 10. Alabama stays right at 11. And that's how it should be because what the committee told us is that the teams that aren't playing are not going to be shifting relative to each other. And so now you're going to tell me you're going to heavily penalize a team for losing in their conference championship, it
They
sets the
already said.
worst precedent in the entire world to say that
I
you should not even play your conference
I mean,
championship if you're in the playoff.
SMU should just opt out of the game at this point. Keep the one
correct.
loss, let Clemson get the automatic
I
qualifier, and
agree.
then just go in the playoff from there.
I agree. But again, I am much in agreement with you. Let's not get it twisted here. I am much in agreement with my cousins here tonight. But with that being said, I have lack of faith in this committee. So I would you when I'm not going to be shocked when they lose to Clemson, especially because I picked them. They're going to lose to Clemson this week. Clemson's going to get in, and somehow SMU is going to find their way out in the New Year's 13, 14 bubble.
Well, I'm gonna be pissed for him because this is like I think you need to make the argument now. You gotta put it out now and talk about how this should not be what they do because if you just say, oh, I expect them to do it, it gives them the out. I believe we need to hold them accountable. Absolutely not. SMU should not be out of the playoff for losing a game against Clemson if it's close. Now,
Good. I like that.
if it's
Yes.
a blowout, that changes some things in my eyes, but I still don't like it.
I
I
agree.
still think that you should not get penalized for losing in your conference championship by being knocked from uh, currently being having a bye to now being on the outside looking in.
I will say Lane Kiffin was onto something 3 or 4 weeks ago when he said, I think we're better off not playing in the SEC championship game. because he knew he didn't have the team to win an SEC title, and he knew that if he didn't win, he was going to be penalized, however you say it. But at the end of the day, Lane Kiffin was on to something.
Yeah, but Lane Kiffin ruined all his credibility in the last week or so, just what he's saying. And yes,
Okay,
it's
yeah,
because
he
he's
says a lot of stuff, but
anti-ACC, but
that
I don't care.
I think, and it could be nothing, but I think he might be onto something. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm in agreement with you. I agree wholeheartedly. They should be in no matter win or lose. But at the same time, like I said, I will be in agreement. Committee, if you do this, it would be very upsetting and disappointing. But I'm not going to be shocked.
I don't envy their jobs.
Yeah, no, me neither.
I don't know.
Turned
I
into a
think it's
fun one.
easy. I've got my mind made up.
Well, you have to take your hat off, sir, if you're going to be on this committee, because that's
It's
what's
not
shut
even
out the
that. No,
door.
no, no.
You
No,
leave your
that's the thing.
hats
This
on
is
the
this is
you
a
leave your
hundred
hats at the
percent.
door.
This is 100%. Like I don't have to because if Clemson wins, they automatically qualify based off of the current rankings. So I don't have to do jack. I just have to advocate for SMU because I think that's what's needed right now. Because I do not think Alabama deserves to be in.
Yeah, well, I don't think Alabama deserves to be in at all either. I don't even think they deserve to be in the conversation with 3 losses and the season that they had this year. But that's
Yeah,
me.
I think Miami should be ahead of them. I honestly would be fine with Miami ahead of them and Miami getting knocked out because Clemson uh beats SMU. I think that I'd be fine with because at that point you're
Let me
rewarding teams for
let me
being in the conference championship and Miami fell short at the end of the season.
real quick. I think I already know your answer, and you can limit it to one word. What are the chances that South Carolina gets in?
0.
Zero.
Okay.
Because no, they already said that they're not going to leapfrog teams that are idle. They're already behind Bama. It's done. Like honestly, and I
And
cannot
Bama
believe
and Ole Miss
I
I
figured you
cannot
were going to
believe
say
and
that, and I
Miami.
agree with you. But again, they have been like one of the more talked about teams this
here,
week.
here here's the thing. Here's the thing. I hate South Carolina with every fiber of my
Correct.
being.
That's
I
also why I
cannot
asked it.
stand the school. I do not. So you can call me biased. I do not think that they're the hottest team should just give them a playoff berth. On the field, results should matter, and the fact that they lost to Bama, they lost to Ole Miss, they're ranked behind them. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not losing any sleep over it. And you can go ahead and say, oh, but if Clemson wins the ACC, they're going to get in, and they lost to South Carolina. They won their conference. Clemson went 7-1 in the conference. What like so Clemson should just deny it because they lost 2 out of conference games? Like, I'm sorry. Like, on-field results matter. The criteria matters. Stop complaining, South Carolina. You should have beaten Bama and you should have beaten Ole Miss.
Yeah, they
End of
should have.
story. End of
If they
story.
beat Bama and Ole Miss, they would be comfortably in right now.
Yeah,
Oh
if
yeah,
they
they
if
would
they
be
if,
they would be
or
very comfortably in. There would be no
if
getting
they
them
had
out.
They'd
if
be
they had
playing
won
for a
one of
conference
those
championship
games,
right now.
if they had won one of those games, it's completely different because then I think they're ahead of whoever they beat. Obviously,
Correct.
and just don't lose games in the regular season. It's that simple. You lost 3 games. The only reason Clemson has a chance of getting in is because they went 7-1 in the conference and they made it to the conference championship. I'm sorry, but that it's not like Clemson is getting in because of the name. They're gonna if they get in, they're gonna get in because they won a conference. Like there's a difference between what South Carolina's trying to get in with and what Clemson's trying to get in. And that's all I'm gonna say. And yeah,
I
I get it. It
agree.
would suck. It would suck if South Carolina beat Clemson in Clemson and then Clemson got in. But win your conference. Don't lose
I
games.
agree. I just wanted to bring it. I
And
agree. I
then
just wanted to
don't
bring it
don't
up.
schedule Old Dominion, Akron, and Wofford as your other out of conference outside of
Yeah.
Clemson. You need to bolster that up because
Yeah.
you're gonna probably take losses in your vaunted SEC. So why not make it where you can say, hey, I played X, Y, and Z, and if you win those games, that's a big plus in your hat to get you over an Ole Miss, over an Alabama, even if you lose to them. I mean, I think that's one of the good things that has kind of shown here is that the committee has, for the most part, valued scheduling a tough a tough schedule, having a tough schedule, and going and playing those tough games. If
Yes, I agree.
intentions are great, Michigan sucked it up and that ruined it for Texas, but still, attempts are there for most
There's
of these
such thing as a
teams.
good loss.
Yeah, I'd argue Clemson doesn't have it right now, but
Yeah.
that's why they're down at 17 and their only chance is to win the conference. So that's what you do. You either have to win your conference or you have to have some good wins outside of your conference.
The best part is one last thing I'll say: Clemson could still get a bye. If I think if UNLV beats Boise State, then Clemson would get the bye. I think honestly, I think if they win, they're going to get the bye because I think they'll leapfrog whoever the Big 12 winner is because
Yes, I agree.
beating number 8 SMU is going to look a lot better than beating 15 or 16 Iowa State or Arizona State. That's just my opinion.
A team that's like you said, limping in to Arizona State to go play Arizona State. Yeah, I would agree with you.
So I cannot wait for the tears from the Gamecocks, especially if Clemson wins this game, gets in and gets a bye, and they get left out. That might that it wouldn't make up for, but it would come very close to making up for losing to them. That would
I
be great.
also I also, and this is the reason why I asked, right? Because I'm in agreement. I come in peace, right? Even though I picked against you guys this week, but this week all I've heard is
And
South Carolina deserves to be in the playoffs. South Carolina is getting the short end of the
Nope,
stick, and I'm like,
nope.
that is not the case.
Don't lose your games. That simple.
well,
If
no,
Clemson wasn't in
the
the
team
ACC
that is
championship,
most likely to get the short end of the stick is SMU.
Okay,
yeah.
I agree.
If Clemson wasn't in the ACC championship, I'd be saying the same thing. Should have won your games in the regular season.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
agree.
Hmm. I think we come on here and we say, like, look, at times this team did not look like a playoff team. You know, at the loss to Georgia, oh, why even bother? You start seeing things pop up and Clemson playing better. Then you lose to Louisville and like, well, you screwed yourselves there. You got to get lucky to have a chance. They get lucky. They don't make me feel good about it with losing to South Carolina the way that we did. And then but you still get your chance. Now it's nut up and shut up.
By the way, are you two also going to thank Fran Brown?
Brand Brown has a standing invite to get a beer with me at SO Club.
All right, perfect. As long as I just wanted to see if you guys were going to give him a thank you or a shout out because he might have saved this.
Anytime he comes to Clemson, I
Man's a
will buy him
legend.
a beer.
What a go.
Is a burger included with that beer or is it
You
just a
still owe
beer?
me a burger, sir. I haven't forgotten.
Yeah. Fran, if you're a fan of the podcast, we owe you at least two beers.
Make that three. He's a culture guy. I love him. I think he's a hell of a recruiter. I said that this year. I put them as my dark horse to win the ACC, even though that did not come to fruition. I think he's one hell of a coach. So make
I
that
mean,
three.
we came in that whole week, 2 weeks, in fact, saying, watch out for Miami having to go up to Syracuse. It's a weird place to play. They're a
I mean,
tough team out when they're at home. It
The
would have been
Carrier
even better if it
Dome.
was a Friday night.
I texted that day, Miami's going to lose to Syracuse.
Yeah, you texted that early too.
I texted it when the game was still going on against Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I called my shot on that Monday before. They were
Well,
my pick. They were my upset pick. Easiest upset pick of the year.
you're welcome for not taking it because knowing me, I would have screwed it up. So
Yeah, it's probably for the
Mhm.
best.
That's why I'm kind of glad Joe picked SMU.
I did that for you guys. Don't forget.
should have just abstained.
You're the
I
real
should have.
one.
I would have had an
All
automatic
right.
loss.
Well, I feel like I have nothing else to add to this conversation. You guys good?
I'm
Yeah,
ready to
by
go to
the way,
bed.
you two owe each other a soda for jinxing each other when you said zero.
Do what?
You guys jinxed each other when you guys said zero at the same time about their playoff chances, South Carolina's.
Oh,
You'll grab
well.
the soda from downstairs. It's for me. I'm gonna go grab one for myself. Go
Very good.
Go
Go
Tigers.
Irish.